First off, we're going to talk about um, what is pay-per-click and what are some of the newest things in Google paid advertising. So Google search, this is an example of a Google search for personal injury lawyer near me. And this is what the search would look like. And interesting to note, it looks the same on your desktop as it looks on your cell phone today. So the ads, the pay-per-click ads, and this is the section we're talking about today, appear at the top of the screen here. And this is what's called pay-per-click, or PPC, that we refer to as the paid Google ads. Down below are the map ads, or the map results, the map listings, and the SEO, or search engine optimization. Now here's the 3 hottest new trends in pay-per-click. The first thing is Google Screened. So if you've done a search recently for anything regarding lawyers, financial, or any professional services that come into your home, you're going to see these new ads right at the top of pay-per-click. Now they're different than the Google pay-per-click ads. These are pay-per-lead. You're not paying for someone to come to your website. You're paying actually for the lead. And they appear right at the top of the search. There's 3 ads on the desktop and 2 ads on your phone. So this is really a game changer. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. As a matter of fact, last month we did an entire webinar on Google Screen. So if you want to see that webinar, go to our blog and you can see that entire recorded webinar. If you click here where it says more personal injury lawyers, you're going to see all of the lawyers that are approved or screened in your area. So you can really delve into the Google Screened. The next hot trend that has really changed this year is automation. This is an example of a smart campaign. I just was helping out my accountant with this campaign, and they had originally set up a smart campaign, and then we set up a manual campaign in addition to the smart campaign. But the smart campaign did phenomenally well. You see here it spent about $5,000 to generate 134 conversions, or $37 a lead, and most of those were calls, 96 phone calls into the firm. The next hot trend we're looking at this year is AI, or artificial intelligence. And this is an AI chatbot. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the presentation, but really it's Google's artificial intelligence, their automation or machine learning products, and AI chatbots and things like that that we can bring to the campaigns that are 2 of the hottest trends for the coming year. So with that introduction, let me get into the meats and bones here of the presentation. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and a little bit of the outline for the presentation. As I said, my name is Jay Berkowitz. I'm the author of 4 books, and my 5th book is coming out this year. It's called Internet Marketing for Law Firms. I've spoken at some of the biggest marketing conferences all around the world, and our company is called 10 Golden Rules. We're based in Boca Raton, Florida, and our partner agency, Snap Agency, is based in Minneapolis. So the Boca Raton 10 Golden Rules team focuses on attorneys and professional services, and Snap Agency does all other kinds of marketing. Our clients range from Stewart & Stewart, based in Indianapolis. We always have a New York personal injury firm. Conrad & Shear are professional attorneys. They do things like real estate and contract law, litigation. Here's a new client, Brian Garrett, solo practitioner based in Oklahoma City, and John Pankowski, longtime client based in Palm Beach, and he's a trust and estate litigator. So we do internet marketing for all kinds of law firms. So without further ado, let's talk about Google PPC. We're going to get into what is PPC, and the question I'm always asked, does it really work? We're going to talk about the research and setup, how to get that campaign set up for success, and tracking, and something that's really, really important is the pay-per-click math, the tracking of a conversion right through to a case. And we'll talk about how to do that. We've got a couple case studies and some advanced strategies as well. So the question I'm always asked, does PPC or pay-per-click ads really work? Does it pay for itself? And I've been asked, this question, does advertising work? As long as I've been in advertising and marketing. And I started my career working for the ad agency for McDonald's restaurants. And I also worked for McDonald's as a director of marketing. And I also worked for Coca-Cola as a category manager. And back in the days, I used to always get this question, does the advertising work? And I can tell you from all my experience, advertising works. But back in the good old days of TV and billboard advertising, we didn't know precisely what worked. We didn't know, was it the TV, was it the billboards, or was it the radio ads that really worked the best? John Wanamaker had this problem. He had this famous quote. He said, "I know half my advertising is wasted. I just don't know which half." Or the corollary, we know half the advertising works. We just didn't know precisely how it worked. But the beauty of internet marketing, digital marketing, and what I love, and this is my quote, you can measure your ROI to the penny. You can measure your return on investment very, very precisely. So here's an example of a Google campaign. Over the period of several months, we spent about $25,000. We had 1,649 interactions, basically clicks or click to calls, and that led to 291 conversions. Again, we know precisely exactly how the campaign is working. And a conversion is a lead. It's a call, it's a chat, or it's a form fill. So again, we know precisely if it's working and how it's working, and we know the cost per conversion. The cost per lead is exactly $87.10 a lead. So does it work? We know precisely if it's working. We know precisely how many clicks we get, how many calls we get, how many chats, and how many forms. So the answer to that question is pay-per-click works, but you must understand the math. You must understand the conversions. In fact, if you want to apply for a job at 10 Golden Rules, you're going to have to answer the math test. And this is like a super quick test that I go through with all of our candidates, but it's pretty straightforward. And I ask the candidate to, take out their phone or I give them a calculator, and it's pretty straightforward. They have to be able to figure out what's the cost per lead, because in our business, in digital marketing, and in your business, if you're a law firm or professional services or any kind of advertiser that's doing paid advertising, the one thing you need to understand is like grade 10 basic math. You need to be able to calculate the cost of a lead. And so if our candidates can't do this basic calculation and then explain to me what they do with the budget next month, there's a very high likelihood they're not getting a second interview. So you can grab a screenshot of this if you want to do the test yourself, or here I'll give you the answers. And basically in this example, the lowest cost per lead was Facebook, slightly better than Google. So we do this for all our clients, and we're very, very precise. For example, here's a client. This is more recent over time, and we were able to improve the number of leads from 171 to 291, and the number of signed cases, signed clients, from 34 up to 51. The critical thing is if you do it manually, or if you're able to integrate it with your CRM, with your case management system, with your back-end software, you need to track your cost, your expense, your number of leads, and your number of signed clients, purchasing clients, paid clients, whatever industry you're in, you must do that calculation. So let's talk about some of the different kinds of PPC. For the most part today, we're talking about Google search ads. And these are the ads that appear right at the top of a Google search. Here's a search for personal injury lawyer near me, and we see the 4 ads that come up in that top section. There's also Google display ads. So these are basically banner ads that Google's aligned with like 2 million other websites around the world. And you can buy visual banner display ads through the Google Display Network. Now, typically that's more used for branding. So today we're going to focus on Google search ads, the ads where someone actually defines a search phrase they're looking for, and you put your ads at the top of the page. We've also done millions and millions of dollars worth of Facebook pay-per-click advertising. Now that's a separate presentation. Today we're not going to talk about Facebook, but again, Facebook is very, very powerful for branding advertising, and when you can target someone based on their likes. Like if they've gone around and let's say they're into cooking, and they've clicked on a bunch of cooking Facebook pages, and they're chefs, and they bought some chef's knives and things like that. When you do Facebook advertising and you target someone who's into cooking and recipes, Facebook is very, very effective for that. But it's not as effective when we're looking for personal injury cases or someone who's recently thinking of getting a divorce. For the legal stuff, and that's what we're mostly talking about today, we're talking about Google pay-per-click. And here's an interesting factoid. Amazon pay-per-click is now the #3 pay-per-click network behind Google and Yahoo Bing. So Amazon's coming up and it's becoming a significant factor. But again, that would be more in shopping. But people are starting to use Amazon's search network, and the paid advertising is now #3 in Amazon. So how do you set up your campaign for success? The first thing is use our checklist. And everybody got a copy of this checklist when they registered for the webinar. We'll send the checklist out with the recording as well. So if you don't have it, go through and use the checklist as you're setting up your pay-per-click campaigns, and make sure you're doing things like the tracking, the testing, and the advanced strategies as well. The first thing we recommend is you can do some research. And this is a tool called SpyFu. You can see it here, it's shaded out, but it's SPYFU, SpyFu. And on SpyFu, you can find out how much your competitor's spending on advertising. And you can even get an example of this graph here of which competitors are using the same keywords. You can see their ads. You can see their ad testing. You can even click over here, this little button, and go to their landing pages. So you can, what we do when we set up a new campaign is we reverse engineer. We look at what the competitors are doing. We get some keyword ideas, some ad ideas from the competitors, and we build our campaign with some market intelligence. The next thing you do is you go to Google, ads.google.com. You set up a Google campaign, much like setting up any kind of Google product. You set your daily budget. That's really important. Good news is Google won't spend over your daily budget anymore. So let's say you want to spend $1,000 to start. You do $30 a day, 30 days or 31 days. It's going to come in within plus or minus 5%. Google's pretty good at delivering that. You're also going to set up your geography. So if we were advertising here, we're based in Boca Raton, Florida, we can set up our geo, or you can be very, very precise. You can set up different zip codes, or you can set up broader geos, and you can even overlap geos as well, geographic territories. And you want to figure out your day parts. Are you going to be Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, which we do a lot of times for legal pay-per-click programs, just to manage the budget. And also a lot of times, if people think, well, I'm calling an office, I'm going to call them between 9 and 5. The other factor that weighs in very heavily is mobile. And mobile is super important. Like if you look at these, this mobile result, basically these are the Google screened ads, click to call. Then this is a click to call in the first ad, the first advertiser. And click to call in legal, the stuff we've been talking about here, like a search for, personal injury lawyer, is a click to call is around $200 to $300 in one of the bigger markets, like where we buy in Miami, New York, LA. It's very, very expensive. So your monthly budget is not for the faint of heart, because if you want the best clicks, things like car accident attorney near me, and you want those clicks on a phone as a direct phone call, because phone calls are much better than form fills. We'll talk a lot about that. It's generally cost between $200 to $300 to get that click. $200 to $300 means you've got a budget at least $1,000 a day to get in the game with Google in a competitive market, in a competitive category. It's very, very expensive. So that's $1,000 a day. So you're looking at $20,000 if you're going Monday to Friday, $30,000 if you're going 30 days a month. So it's not for the faint of heart to get into personal injury pay-per-click in a big market. The next thing in terms of setting up your campaign, you want nice, clean ad groups. So what I mean by that is you'll create a different ad group for each logical selection of keywords. So again, the car accident example, car accident lawyer, automobile accident attorneys, automobile accident lawyers, car accident attorney, those similar keywords are going to go in a keyword grouping all about car accident attorneys. And then the ads are also going to be very consistent. So auto accident lawyers, serious attorneys fighting for you. Motor vehicle accident attorneys, get a free case review today. So the keywords are similar, the ads are similar, and then the landing page is also going to fit with your ad group. So this attorney might also do slip and falls. He might also do nursing home abuse. But what you're going to do is create a different ad group so that you have relevance. Relevance is very, very important in pay-per-click. Your ads should all be similar. Your keywords, your ads, and your landing page are all relevant to each other. Just makes sense, right? Common sense stuff, but in terms of setting up your campaign. Now, this is more for your pay-per-click manager is going to have to figure out match type. So let's say the keyword that we're targeting is injury lawyer. Now on broad match, you would just put in keyword. And so you would just put in injury lawyer. But the risk with that is Google could show something like, how much does an injury lawyer make? And that might be for a student who's thinking of careers. So that's not somebody who's looking for a personal injury lawyer. So you might use a more specific type like phrase match. So phrase match could show an ad for find an injury lawyer, injury attorney near me, best injury attorney. So it's going to use the injury lawyer or injury attorney, but it could put something before it or after it. And then exact match is when you're super precise. So the only thing that's going to show up is injury lawyer or injury attorney. It used to mean that if you put it in the brackets, in the keyword brackets, the only thing that would show up was the exact word. But Google's using a little bit of discretion now. So they would use injury lawyer or injury attorney, but they wouldn't use something like how much does an injury lawyer make? So in setting up your campaign, there's different reasons to be more specific and less specific, but it's very important in these campaigns. Now, the anatomy of an ad, in terms of setting up your ad campaigns, I'm just checking here to make sure everything's good, audio and video and whatnot. Thank you, Maria. Looks like everything's good. The anatomy of an ad. What does an ad look like? Well, this is the headline of your ad. And today you can do what's called responsive ads. So it looks like the way these guys set it up is there's actually, you can actually give Google like 8 different mini headlines, and then they're going to sort them. And that's back to Google's automation. They're going to use machine learning, artificial intelligence to get your ad to perform the best. So you might give them 6 or 8 options of these little mini sections of your headline and 6 or 8 options of your body text. But without getting into that level of detail, this is the headline of the ad. This is the description of the ad. And then there's a number of extensions that Google allows you to add today. So this is what's called the call extension. These are site link extensions. This is your location extensions. So you want to take advantage. There's about 14 different extensions. As your campaign gets more and more sophisticated, you want to take advantage of those extensions because you see the amount of real estate you're able to take up and the more relevance. Obviously, if this is a local ad campaign and it's super local and you're locally based, you want to put your local address, your local phone number, your 561 if you're in area code 561. And then the next thing is, where's your ad going to go? Where are you clicking to? So in this case, this is an example of the homepage for the campaign we were looking at before. This is the example of a landing page. Here's a nursing home landing page, so very different from that car accident landing page. And then here's a thank you page. So the thank you page is very important. So let's say the person fills out the form on the page, and then we present them with a thank you page. It says, your inquiry has been submitted and we got your information. Now that's valuable for the consumer because we all do that. Like I did it the other day. I filled out a form and there was the page didn't change. I'm like, did they get my information? Do I need to fill it out again? Was something wrong? So you want to give the consumer a very clear indication. Thank you, we got your information. We'll be getting in touch with you within 5 hours, 24 hours, whatever it is. If you're a personal injury lawyer, I recommend getting in touch with them within 5 minutes. But at least give the consumer an indication they got it. But the most important thing from the campaign side, the setup side, is we put tracking code on that conversion page, conversion code. And you don't put the code on the page, on the landing page, you put the code on the conversion page so that we know definitively that that we got a conversion from the keyword that the person searched. So that gives us the smarts, the tracking to do the calculations we talked about earlier. You also want to have all of your campaigns set up mobile responsive, so they look great on a cell phone. And then, as I talked about, your main thing, like if you have a digital agency or if you have an in-house marketing manager, the main conversation you should be having is how many conversions did we get? So in this campaign, we spent $26,000. We got 130 conversions. Our cost per conversion was $200. So that's the most important thing. I keep harping on it, I apologize. But from a mindset perspective, that's the most important thing as a business person. How much did I spend? How many leads did I get? What was my cost per lead? And how many of those leads turned into signed clients? And what was my cost per signed client? Okay. And that's the grade 10 math that'll make the difference between a great campaign and basically, blowing your money. Back to the earlier question, like, does it work? I mentioned this a couple times. You want to focus on getting calls. This is an example of call tracking software. We generally use a product called CallRail, and CallRail is really great. It gives you a recording of the calls, but more importantly, it gives you tracking. So we know which campaign, which ad group the person clicked on, which ad they clicked on, or which keyword, and we know if we got a conversion. So then we can go back to our campaigns. We have more intelligence. So we know when we got a call, we know when we got a chat, because we use chat tracking conversion software, and we know when we got a form. And if we look at the numbers we saw earlier, here's the tracking, and this client is awesome. Thank you again, Lance. He for like 4 years, he's filled out every single month which leads turned into cases, signed cases. So we know that his calls, he got 1,700 calls over the period of a year. And we look February to February, so we can look at the same month a year ago. And we saw that he got 134 on average calls per month, 32 clients retained. That's 24% of the calls turned into clients. Now, the corollary of that is only 5% of the forms turned into clients and 9% of the chats. So that's why our campaigns want to be focused on mobile. So your campaign should be on mobile phones. And if you can, you want as much of the campaign focused on mobile. You have to test because it's different in different categories. But in personal injury, for example, you want a lot of phone calls, and you want those calls, hyper focused on conversion, because if 24% convert, it's much more powerful. Now, why don't the forms convert? The reason is pretty obvious if you think about it. If you get someone on the phone, you got a chance to convert them. If it's a great case, you're going to get in your car and drive over and sign that person up. You're going to do a DocuSign right away over the computer. If someone fills out a form and you call them back the next day, and then they hit the back button and they went out to somebody else's pay-per-click ad, and a lot of times people fill out 2 or 3 ads and or click to call, and that person gets them on the phone right away. If they filled out your form, but they talked to someone after they filled out your form, that person might have DocuSigned them. The case is done. They'll never return your call. They've already hired a lawyer. So super focus on click to call and call conversions. So in terms of setting up the campaign, first thing, we research the competitors. I mentioned the term SpyFu. We look at the ads they're running, their landing page, their keywords, and then we set up the campaign at ads.google.com. We set our budgets, our geographic targets, our day part, our match type. You want your keywords to be relevant grouping. So you got all your nursing home keywords in one campaign, your nursing home ads, and your nursing home landing page. So it's relevant to the consumer. And finally, make sure you're tracking calls, chats, and forms through your conversions. If I haven't said it enough, that's the most important part of your campaign. How do you do that tracking? Well, here in Google Ads Help, we just search for conversion tracking. You add a little tag to your website. Now your webmaster will know how to do this, and then it gives us all that information. So here we see the call rail is a goal, calls 30 seconds or more. So we're saying, like, if someone calls in and hangs up, that's not really a lead. Here's our chat leads, our form fills, different things like calls from Google My Business and things like that. So we're very, very precise in setting up the tracking. We talked about this earlier, the marketing math and tracking through, so we know exactly our campaign cost $87 a lead. Now, this is how you do the back end case tracking. I was using the example earlier. We actually send these over to our client, and these are all the, these are either the calls or yeah, these are the calls. Oh, these are all of them, calls, forms, and chats. And then the client goes in and tells us whether or not it was a good case. And then that information is compiled into our case tracking report. Now, if you have software, like we've had Smart Advocate on our webinars last year talking about legal marketing technology. If you have something like a Smart Advocate, you can track right through to the ad, right through to the signed client, and right through to the case value. So when you have a CRM, you should be able to integrate that with your pay-per-click campaign so that you can track your cases. Again, let's do a little simple marketing math. In the example we showed before, we spent $25,000 for 1,600 clicks, 291 conversions. Our cost per conversion was $87. We retained 51 clients. The cost per client was $497. So that's pretty good. Like if you're in personal injury, or for this client, that's a great number because their average client is somewhere between $3,500 to $5,000. And then obviously they have some huge clients and some smaller clients. So the revenue per client, $3,500. So their total revenue, $178,000. So that's an awesome month for these guys. They're thrilled when they get those kind of numbers. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about some of the advanced strategies. So this is one that's really got me excited over the last few years because we all knew that there was more than one reason why people converted. And we all, I think, instinctively knew people did a lot of research. But this is a thing that's called multi-factor conversions that's recently been added to Google Analytics. And recently in the last 3 or 4 years, but I've seen it be more and more accurate, just based on common sense and based on what you know about a business. Because when we look at this across 20 or 30 different clients, we get a pretty good feel that, a few years ago when Google first created it, it didn't seem that accurate, but now it seems pretty relevant. So what is it? Well, essentially what it's telling us is that we got 248 conversions for this client, meaning again, a call, a chat, or a form fill, because we're tracking it precisely. But these folks came in through organic search, and then they typed in the URL directly. They typed in the website name directly. Now that makes a lot of sense, right? Someone does an organic search for car accident lawyer, then they find 2 or 3 lawyers they like, then maybe they go back to their husband, wife, or their aunt who was injured in the accident. They say, look, here's a couple lawyers in our area that we like, that I found, and what do you think? And then they have the actual URL saved, and they go directly to those websites. So that's an example of a multi-factor conversion. Someone did an organic search, but they signed up directly. Here's one where they did a paid search, and then they did an organic search. So in that example, they might have done a paid search for car accident lawyer, but then they might have done an organic search for the name of the lawyer. They might have just put in like, Berkowitz and Berkowitz specifically. So what we see is that in a lot of instances, in over half the cases, people are coming back multiple times. They're doing their research. So the reason I share this is because you got to think a little bit differently about the campaigns now. We used to be much more focused on where did those conversions come from. But you want to think about building a bit of a story for customers. And you want to, not be just like 1,000% focused on just those landing pages and those conversions. You want to give them a lot of information, give them testimonials, give them videos, answer their questions on those initial searches, and don't just be like hyper focused on that final search that converts, because this is proof positive that people are doing multiple steps of research and they're coming in through multiple sources. I talked a little bit about automation, but I want to spend some more time on it because it's really something significant. And what happens with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, with these databases that Google and the other advertisers build, is they get smarter and smarter over time. So what we see is that, Google first introduces something like automated bidding. And 3 or 4 years ago, it was a disaster. It really didn't work well. You were way better off to turn it off and set the bidding yourself. But now they've got automated bidding. They're using the responsive ad types. So they're creating your ads based on the size. And sometimes that's a factor of there's more space on a desktop ad, less space on a cell phone ad, a little bit more space on a tablet ad. So if you give Google multi-format responsive ad type, then Google is going to modify that and target the best performance based on the actual device type that the person's on. So now with the automated bidding, the smart campaigns, the max conversion strategies with Google, our recommendation today is you've got to test this stuff. Because 3 or 4 years ago, you were better off to run it manually. But today, you want to run it like an A/B test, and you want to set a campaign up with Google's automation against your own bid management, for example. And at the end of a couple months, maybe you got a read on, is Google helping me here, or am I better off to turn off the automation? So suffice to say that the machines beat us over time, is our experience. I do another presentation all talking about artificial intelligence, and like the Siri search, the Siri search is now more accurate than a human transcriber. If the audio is good, it's correct like 94% of the time, which is more accurate than a human transcriber. So what happens is the machine learns, gets smarter, and over time the automation is going to beat the human. And so you want to test it. You want to see if on your campaign, in your current setup, the Google automation is better than what you got. The next thing is these artificial intelligence chatbots. And we've got this in test for a couple of clients. And basically it's like a little bot or a little robot, if you will, that walks you through in a couple different scenarios. Hi, welcome to the law firm. What case can I assist you with? And you click, and then it asks you another question. You click, another question, you click. And what's happened over time is we've gotten better and better at figuring out the questions to ask to get the person the information they need. And if you think back like 4 or 5 years, when you used to do an automated robot chat, you would ask the machine questions and it would never have an answer. But now these automated robots are really good at giving you an answer. And like I said, they've learned over time. And so what we're seeing is the AI bot is better than the human interaction in some instances. And when it's better, you can save money on your campaign and give the consumer an easier experience. If it's one of those stupid robots that doesn't work, obviously it drives the consumer crazy. We don't recommend it. But here we're talking about some very sophisticated solutions that have moved the needle. Another significant thing this year is Google announced they're basically removing data from searches. And we saw Facebook do this a couple of years ago with the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal. And we were running about $2 million worth of Facebook advertising every month. And when they removed the Cambridge Analytica and a ton of other data, it significantly altered the Facebook algorithms. And all our campaigns were set into, a real tailspin. And it really hasn't recovered since. Now, the good news is we have more privacy as consumers, but the bad news is this data was valuable for Facebook and Google advertising and targeting. This change is not going to affect Google search very much, in our opinion. It's going to affect display advertising. It's going to affect those banner ads we showed you earlier. So this, if you saw this news, is big news if you're a big brand and display advertiser, not as much if you're a pay-per-click search advertiser. The other thing you want to target is retargeting. So that's when someone comes to your website, they don't do a chat or fill out a form, they don't call you, and then we can show them their ad as they're surfing around, checking their stocks or checking the weather, and that's called remarketing. I'm sure you've seen that as a consumer where you look at a pair of running shoes, and then every website you go to for the next 3 weeks, it's those exact running shoes in that exact color you were looking for. So this is remarketing advertising, a very good component to add to your campaign. And we talked earlier about Google Screened. So this was introduced as Google Guaranteed for plumbers, where they do the background checks. and they actually have a guarantee that covers your claims. And then this was introduced in legal, professional services, financial, and real estate. So those three categories have come online now. And as I mentioned earlier, it's really a game changer. Like these Google screened ads are grabbing off, I would say 20 or 30% of the searches because they're right at the top there. And as the consumer gets more and more familiar, we're going to see even more of them. So that's becoming a really significant factor. And we did a separate campaign, a separate webinar all about Google Screen. And we talked about the 6 factors in the secret algorithm for getting screened. You need lots of reviews. The location's important, the bid. So if you want to set up your Google Screen campaign, we have an entire 1-hour webinar all about Google Screen that you can find on our blog, 10goldenrules.com. Just click on blog. And finally, you want to set up Bing or Yahoo ads. Once your Google campaign's set up and running, Google's about 80 or 90% of the searches. But if you want to like super optimize your campaign and you still have some budget, it's definitely worth testing. When I say Bing and Yahoo, Bing and Yahoo run on the same advertising platform. So you want to set up your Bing campaign. You can basically just upload your Google ad campaign to test it out, and then do some testing and tweaking in there. And in some instances, your cost per lead will actually be lower on Bing and Yahoo. I think the biggest reason is 90% of advertisers never even try it out. So you have much less competition, even though there's fewer searches. There's much less competition. So quick review of what we covered so far today. You want a clean setup for your campaigns. Nice, relevant ad groupings, ads, and landing pages, and then tons of testing in your campaign. Test different keywords, test different ads, test different landing pages, A/B testing. For ads, you want to run 3 or 4. So it's ABCD testing, and the ads that don't work, you get rid of them. And if you have a couple ads that work a little better, write a couple ads that are kind of like those ads and continually try and improve the performance. Critical that you're tracking not only leads, so calls, chats, and forms, but you're also tracking clients. So how, even if you do it on a macro level every month, we spent $10,000, we signed, 50 clients, our cost per lead was $20 or $200, 10,000 times 50 is 200 clients, and do the math on a macro level each month, and then test some of those advanced techniques I talked about in 10 Golden Rules. 10 Golden Rules, golden rule number 10 is lead to trends. So always explore those brand new things when they come out. Some of the things I talked about today, like multi-factor attribution. Go into your analytics. What is your multi-factor story? Are a lot of people coming through, organic search and then buying through a pay-per-click ad? Okay, now you're going to think differently. You're going to recognize that you can really tell a story on your website in your organic searches, and then people are coming back and buying through pay-per-click. But they didn't just show up for the first time on your website through a pay-per-click ad. So you want to, build your story, build your messaging based on that market intelligence. And Google Screened, of course, if you're in professional services, real estate, or legal, and you're not Google Screened, you're missing the boat. As simply as that. This is taking 20 or 30% of the clicks right off the top, and the opportunity is still there that there might be 50 lawyers approved for personal injury, but we're looking at some categories like tax law we looked at this week, and family law, and there might be only 3 or 4 of your competitors in your market who are approved for Google Screened. So as soon as they get 3, they show it. So if there's only 2 people approved, they're not going to show the ad. So you have to have 3 competitors in your market approved, and then you'll be one of 3 grabbing off those clicks right at the top of the page. So test it out. What's your cost per lead, and what's your cost per signed client? And then things like remarketing and the artificial intelligence chatbots. Obviously you want to, if an artificial intelligence chatbot converts better than a human chat, and if you don't have chat at all, you got to have chat and test it out on your website, because like I said, it generally generates 20 to 30% more leads, some people just want to chat. They're not going to pick up the phone. They don't trust you with your email address yet. So a chat is going to get you a conversion where you wouldn't have otherwise had a conversion. So I think that wraps up our slides. Oh, I always like to show the hockey stick. We were, as a matter of fact, we had one of these today with yesterday with a client where he's just starting to get that first hockey stick. And what we mean by that is I'm a Canadian and I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan. And this is a hockey stick. So this is and the business term is typically you want to see your sales go along like this and your website traffic and your conversions. So this is one of our clients who had like 2,000 people to their website, 3,000, then 5,000, 4,000, 6,000, 9,000, 8,000. And their leads were at 34, 28, 95, 132, 122, 188, 246. So you want to see a hockey stick, in personally on the ice, but you want to see a hockey stick in business. I love the hockey stick. And as I mentioned, we had a client yesterday, he's been on board for about 6 months, and his SEO and his traffic to his website and his leads are all starting to, get in that first initial phase of the shaft. We call this the blade in the shaft. We're just getting in the shaft of the hockey stick. So if we can help you folks get a hockey stick, please get in touch with me. I'll put this link in the chat and you can set up an appointment for a free consultation. This is great, by the way. It's called Calendly. If you don't have Calendly, you gotta have Calendly. What it is you can click and you can see my calendar, and then you can immediately set up an appointment. And what the app does is it sets up a Zoom meeting for us, and it puts the appointment on your calendar or my calendar. So if I can help, if you have any questions, we can do that through Calendly. And then I am going to put that in the chat, and I'm going to take some questions now. So hopefully you all have some questions. Let me just get my, I see a question in the questions from anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous. Do you offer full reporting with your services? Are they included or are they additional fee? Absolutely, we offer full reporting. I mean, we talked a lot about the value of the reporting. We talked a lot about all the information, and it's, everything we do, it's critical that that we track everything. And as a matter of fact, a lot of our engagements include a performance bonus. So a lot of times we'll sign up with a client with a lower retainer amount, but then there's a little bit of a bonus. When we start hitting the hockey stick, there's a little more of a bonus. But again, if a client's signing 20 or 30 cases and, their personal injury lawyer, each case is worth $10,000, 20 cases is worth $200,000. Let me just put that link in the chat, and then I got a few more questions coming in. Please use this time to ask any questions you have, or any comments are appreciated. But I'm just gonna, in the chat, I'm just gonna put the link if you wanna set up a Calendly, a free consultation with me. So if you can go to the bottom of your Zoom screen and just click on chat, and you'll see the link there. Hey, Jim, I always thought PPC was less effective than organic. Most people don't click on the paid sites. What is the case for PPC? Well, you are correct. There used to be a data point that like 75% or 65% of people preferred to click on the SEO. But the game's definitely changed, right? Because now, it used to be the SEO was on the left and the paid ads were on the right. But now we've got this whole new environment, right? We've got Google screened at the top, and Google's telling the consumer, like, we've literally screened these advertisers, and they do, right? They get your legal license, they make sure you're not suspended, they get your address, they do a background check. There's a company called Pinkerton that actually does the Google screen. So as the consumer becomes aware, okay, I can go with somebody who's in SEO, or I can go with someone who's Google verified to be my locksmith, or someone who's Google screened to be my financial planner or my personal injury lawyer, the consumer is going to be even more inclined to click on the screen. Then there's the paid ads, the pay-per-click. Then there's the maps, and the maps do incredibly well in terms of percentage of clicks. And then the SEO is down below. So you've got screen, paid ads, maps, and SEO. And so I think, the reality is that Google's taking up a lot of the real estate between all those other factors before the SEO. So we're seeing that the percentages of overall traffic are shifting. 20 or 30% of those clicks are going to screened, 10, 20%, 30% to PPC. But really the answer to your question with PPC is, does the math make sense? Really, it comes down, and that's why I spent a lot of time talking about and doing those calculations. If you spend $10,000 and you get 100 leads and it turns into 10 clients, that's $1,000 a client. If your clients are worth $10,000 on average, because you're a personal injury attorney and you spend $1,000 to sign those guys up, and they're $10,000 cases, so typically the firm makes $3,000, 30%, and it costs you $1,000 a case, and the cases are worth $3,000, then the math makes sense. So really the answer on pay-per-click is about doing the math. It's really about doing your tracking correctly, tracking through to signed cases, and knowing if the math made sense. Oh, there's my buddy Brian Walton. Hey, Brian, a long time no see. Hope you're well. Can the PPC campaign be targeted by browser language? I have a client targeting Russian residents, and yes, the answer is correct. And you should. We do a lot of work in Spanish, and we were actually researching Russian. So if you can't find a Russian PPC operator, let me know, because I have a couple resources. For one of our construction accent lawyers in New York, we've done Russian, Polish, and Spanish, of course. And so the PPC campaigns will match to the language, and will match to the browser language. But again, you got to experiment with the keywords in the other language. How many Google reviews do I need to be Google screened? I don't think most people do Google reviews for consultants in my field. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. But I think the answer is you need more Google reviews than your competitor. But that wasn't technically your question. So typically the person with the most reviews is going to show up higher and more frequently in Google Screened and in Google Maps. So Google reviews have become really important. We spend a lot of time working with our clients on, internal promotions to get the paralegals or, your office concierge to reach out to happy customers at the time when they're happiest and ask them for that Google review. We use tools like Birdeye and other automated tools to get reviews, because reviews are now super important for pay-per-click and they're super important for Google Screen. So you need the simple answer is you need more reviews than your competitor. But technically your question was, how many reviews do you need to be screened? And the answer is 0. Google Screened has nothing to do with reviews. So you get Google Screened based on having a license, how long you've been in business, and a background check of the owner of the firm. And when we set up Google Screened, we recommend setting it up with only the one owner of the firm, even if there's multiple partners, and then add the pictures and partners later, because even the picture is hard to get approved the way the artificial intelligence works in Google Screen. So technically you don't need any reviews to get screened, to get approved. Get screened and get reviews. They're both really important, but they're not linked at the hip. Okay, what would be the very first step for PPC? So I'll go back to the setup. The very first step is just go to ads.google.com and set up your account. Concurrently, or right after that, I would do some research, and even just simple searches like the keywords that you're targeting. Type those keywords into Google. Even the Google waterfall, like if you type in personal injury lawyer, Google probably completes that, and it has a list of personal injury lawyer near me, personal injury attorney, personal injury lawyer highest rated. Like it might even suggest some keyword phrases in the Google search suggest. And then you're going to add those keywords to your campaign. I mentioned a tool called SpyFu where you can find out what your competitors, what keywords they're bidding on, what their ads look like, and then you build your campaign in ads.google.com. Are we able to see actual spend with AdWords, or do we pay and you pay the ad spend bill? Oh, again, this is a question for us. So 10 golden rules, our approach is 100% disclosure. So what we do is we'll set your ad campaign up and you own it. So we set the most times what we'll do is, like, let's say your firm is called Berkowitz and Berkowitz. We'll set up, Berkowitz PPC or Berkowitz TGR at gmail.com. We set up a Gmail, we give you the password, and you're actually the administrator of that Gmail. And then we use that Gmail to set up your Google Ads campaign. And we actually use your credit card for the Google Ads. So we want 100% disclosure on everything. So our approach, and I know it's not the way my competitors work, but our approach is you own your website, you own your Google campaign, you own your Google Analytics. And some of our competitors feel like they want to own those things so that you can't leave. But we'd rather give you 100% full disclosure and work with you to make your campaigns super successful, and then you won't leave. So that's our philosophy. I can't speak for my competitors, but with us, you would definitely own your AdWords campaign, and you would definitely own all of your other social media and everything like that. Let me see if I have any other chat questions. All right, I think that's it for today. Oh, one more. Just when I thought we were done. Do you test the results and add copy text to ensure that the strategy is working? Can we see the reason why this ad is not working, and can we change the ad? Yeah, so again, every month we have a detailed reporting meeting. We'll show you all the top ads. We'll show you all the ads if you want, but generally we show like the top 20 or 30 ads. And then we show some ad testing ideas, like, hey, here's some ads that worked really well. Here's a couple variants that we're going to test in the coming months. And so, yeah, we show you all the ads that are working, the ads that aren't working, the ads that we paused. We take a full disclosure approach. And, frankly, we brainstorm a little bit because, you're on the front line with your clients. You're talking to your clients. And so a lot of times you'll give us feedback. Oh, a lot of clients are asking about this or that. And we put that in the ads, and it works really well. A smart campaign versus a search campaign. Good question, Brian. So again, the smart campaign is basically run 100% by Google. You kind of tell them, okay, in the case of my accountant, we said we want to target, accounting, small businesses, small business accounting, IRS tax returns. We gave them about 5 or 10 keyword phrases. We gave them the geo, we gave them the budget, and Google set up this whole campaign. And we were getting like $1 and $2 clicks. And then we set up a campaign ourselves where we put like IRS tax accountant, small business tax lawyer, and we set up our ad groupings and our ads and everything. And, it was about equal in terms of the number of conversions and in terms of the cost per conversion. But the smart campaign, got about 1,000 clicks, and our campaign got about 100 clicks. So there's something about the artificial intelligence with Google, or maybe Google's just like throwing a bunch of unwanted clicks against the campaign, the smart campaign, just to use their inventory, and they're giving you those clicks at 10, 20, 30 cents, and 1 out of 100 is converting. So, and the smart campaigns may be building its intelligence, not artificial intelligence, but it's building click and conversion intelligence. And so I think we're going to see a day, in a year or two, or not too far, maybe 3, where the smart campaigns are really putting, the PPC managers at risk. Maybe not my job, but maybe our team who works on the campaigns. And Now you're going to have to be, instead of a PPC manager, you're going to have to be a smart campaign manager, and you're going to have to know how to tweak the artificial intelligence more than actually writing the ads and doing the bid management, because the computers are going to replace that role. So heads up if you're a PPC manager. All right, so that's just a comment, not a question. You're welcome. And I think that's it. Oh, no, one more. How can I select the right keywords to target my business? What's the meaning of negative keywords? Okay, so, I'll go, I apologize for all these lawyer examples. I'll pick another category. We have a business attorney, and they have an office in Ecuador. So they're doing some immigration stuff, but the clients they really want are US-based clients who want to do business in Latin America. So the keywords that you would use would be like, business attorney, Ecuador, business attorney, Latin America, contracts attorney, Quito, Ecuador. And so we put those kind of keywords in the campaign. Now, let's say they didn't want the immigration word. So you could put a negative keyword for immigration, a negative keyword for, visa, a negative keyword for immigration attorney, immigration lawyer, immigration attorney, Latin America. And so that tells Google anytime there's a variant of the negatives, don't show my ads. And anytime there's one of the keywords I want my ads shown on, those would show up. So not only are negative keywords an option, but they're very, very important. So you want to have negative keywords in your campaign. And another way you add those to the campaign is you'll see all the search variants. So let's say you have a broad match phrase like, car accident lawyer. And in the example I used earlier, someone does a search for how much does a car accident lawyer make? And you don't want to show up for the students who are thinking about a career as an accident attorney. So you take out the how much does someone make, or what's the salary of, and you put that as a negative keyword in your campaign, so that you don't get those, you're not paying for those searches. Maybe you come up for them on organic, and someone could come to your website, but you don't want to pay per click when someone's looking for a career and they're not looking for a car accident lawyer. All right, well, I think we did great today. Thank you all so much. As I mentioned, I put my Calendly in the chat box. I'll pop it in there again. But as soon click on it now if you want to set up a chance to talk. And even if you're one of my buddies like Brian, just click on there and let's catch up. Let's do a quick Zoom. And I'd love to connect with y'all. And the Calendly is great because you can see my calendar and book a session, and the app actually sets up a Zoom meeting for us. And so I'll see, Brian, I'm looking forward to catching up with you, and anyone else who wants to connect, just click the Calendly, and I look forward to connecting. And for those of you watching this, sometime in 2022 or 2023, please do me a favor and put a comments in the YouTube and say, hey, from the future, thanks for recording this, Jay. And to everyone else, thanks for your time today. And with that, I'm out.